What's up, my 1111 YouTube friends? Trent and I have been out in the shop plugging away on Jason's 6.5. Got a lot done, a lot of tedious stuff. We did all the big show me work last week or the week before. Now it's all the little tiny tedious, takes forever to do any of it. Like building the exhaust. I spent all day Friday. I was out in the shop for almost 12 hours on Friday, mainly just building the exhaust system. It takes a long time. Lots of little itty bitty pieces to do. First, I want to thank a few people that hit the super thanks button on the last video. I've put that out so people, if they want to donate to the channel, to the builds at all, you can hit thanks underneath the video. You hit thanks, and then you can donate whatever you want. We got Dave Dobrisky was one. Rotec 700 was one. Z Waljits, Tony Gassino, Dave Lowry, and Jeanette West. Sorry if I butchered your name. I suck at pronouncing names. The other question I have for the comments in this video, I love doing these questions and have you guys comment. I'll probably ask one about the sled too, but I love your guys' response on the comments. But what age group do you think watches my videos? And I'm going to give you 4 age groups, because I can see it on my end of which age group actually watches my videos. So 25 to 34, 35 to 44, 45 to 54, 55 to 64. In those age groups, tell me which one is the most in that age group. A couple of them are pretty close, but there's definitely one leader. So put that down in the comments section. What age group do you think watches my videos of building these old triple muscle sleds? I'll show you some of the stuff that we got done. Obviously, the exhaust system, and this is something that was brought up in the last video. Could I go round into a square opening? I said, well, I cut a round hole and put a round peg in it. No, a few of you commented that's not going to work. They compared it to a jet ski impeller. If you stick a round exhaust into a square opening, it's going to affect the edges of the impeller of the turbo eventually. And I looked online of, yep, all these fittings are square. So I had to make a couple pieces to make all this go square first. Hooked it to my round exhaust, so it's definitely going square. It's actually rectangle. It's slightly different from one way to the other. But it's definitely the same shape from this side into the intake side of the turbo. That took me a long time to make that piece. Trust me. And then I made the exhaust part that goes down and out the side of the belly pan. Just rocking. Once again, to make these 2 rings for either side of the belly pan, because I cut the belly pan bigger around the exhaust. I sent out some pictures the other day. Some of my friends, a couple of them were concerned about how close it was going to be to the belly pan. I actually had an air gap all the way around, and then the aluminum rings are right up to the exhaust. So I think it's going to work. That's how my mountain sled was set up. Similar, but just to make the 2 rings took me forever. Got them inside and outside. Got my 12-volt battery just laying in here. This is what's actually going to power the electric fuel pump. But it's going to get mounted right in this area, I'm thinking. Somewhat close to the exhaust area to keep the battery warm. So I got good battery life out of the battery. I'm going to make a bracket to hold it right there. I got to make the bracket yet. Today I did a bunch of wiring. I did wiring and fuel lines today. And Trenton worked on a little bit of everything. But we got the belly pan all on. Bumpers are on, the nose cone's on. Trenton set the primary clutch up. What'd you do for weights on a spring in the primary clutch?
Blue and a 1062.
1062 weights. Yeah, we'll see. Some people told me 10 grams heavier. So we're gonna start off at a 1062. See where that gets us. Yeah, I can always change it. Trenton did a little polishing on the air box. Let's get this out of the way here. God, we got that gorgeous looking seat sitting on it for this video. Get the airbox out of the way. Here's the fuel system nightmare that I've been wrapping my head around. But I got everything kind of, it's it's set up a little bit nicer than it was. Things are closer. There was all this space back here, but they put a battery back here on the XLT, and they ran all this jazz down over in the footwell. I moved everything back in here. That way I can feed the electric pump from its own connection. I'm waiting for a ton of fittings right now. I kind of ran into a roadblock midday today because I'm waiting on so many different things to show up. I'm waiting for the fittings for the fuel pressure regulator. I got 90s for in here instead of straights. So I want to do 90s off of the fuel pressure regulator. I'm waiting for my rubber grommets and 90s for the feed and the return on the electric fuel pump. Before, they used to share the fuel line with the mechanical and the electric. Now I'm going to do its own pickup in the tank for the electric and a return for the electric. So I'm waiting for those fittings to show up. So I started running all the lines. Red is all the electric side and blue is all the mechanical side. I just did that to kind of try and separate things a little bit. So it's visual. That's okay. This is for the electric side, this is for the mechanical side. All these lines laying down here are all going to run to the carbs. Once I put the carbs on, I'll trim all the lines to fit. But yeah, I mean, this is the business end right here. The manifold's in there, the mechanical pump is in, the electric fuel pump's in. I mounted the pressure switch up here at 2 PSI. That's what kicks the electric pump on. I can do that just by blowing through this hose right here, and I actually had the pressure gauge on there at one time, and it's at 2 PSI. That pump kicks on. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. And then I came up with the idea. I was reading through my instructions, and the instructions said on their demo sled, handwritten instructions says, we mounted a light on the dash to indicate when the electric pump came on. Well, being we got rid of the oil, oil injection, we got rid of that. Well, we have a wire circuit that's running all the way up to the dash with a red light that says low oil. So I wired off of the wire harness to the side of the switch that it powers up after the switch comes on. Then it sends power to this side that sends power down to the relay that sends it to the electric fuel pump. I wire to that side so when at 2 PSI it kicks that fuel pump on, the oil light on the dash will come on. So that way we know the pump came on. It's a visual of the lights on, and then you'll have a visual, have a fuel pressure gauge also, so you'll have a visual also that it has fuel pressure. So yeah, I don't know. I was gonna wire a separate light, and then I got to think, well, we have a light right on the dash if I just use it out of the wire harness. So I wired that. I thought it was pretty ingenious, and I bought a momentary switch also that we're gonna mount. So we're gonna mount all the gauges up in this area here. So I bought a momentary switch that I'm gonna mount right next to the fuel pressure gauge that can actually bump the switch and prime the electric fuel system. It'll kick that electric fuel pump on momentarily, and I can see the gauge come up. That will have fuel pressure. That way all the air comes out of the lines. And probably only have to do that maybe once or maybe every day when you go ride it. You can just hit that momentary switch once to make sure you prime your fuel system. That way when you go under boost, you don't have any air in your lines anywhere. So that's the other thing. Is I started work on the carbs the other day, and I took one of my test carbs and I drilled a hole. I was gonna start putting the power jets in. So I drilled a hole, tapped it, and apparently I didn't run my tapped threads deep enough, and I'm putting the power jet in, and I'm kind of looking at Trent and talking to him at the same time. I'm tightening up the power jet, snapped it off. I was like, oh no, I snapped the power jet off. It's so thin. I mean, it barely resisted me and it snapped off, and I'm like, oh no. Went on Amazon, I ordered 3 new power jets for a Banshee. They run the same thing on a Banshee with the power jet. Ordered 3 new power jets. I got those coming too, so I didn't even dare drill and tap any holes in my carburetors because I'm not exactly sure on the threads that coming on the new power jet, because nowhere in the description does it say what the thread is. So I didn't want to do anything ahead of time until I get the power jets, because my plan was to have the carbs totally 100% done this weekend on the sled with the fuel lines ran to it, airbox hooked up, everything. That was my plan, was to have everything done on the fuel side. It didn't work out. That's the way things go. I snapped the power jet off. My fault. Really sucked. But it gave me more time to wrap my head around the fuel system and the wiring and stuff. The wiring is so much cleaner than it ever was. I mean, look at the wiring. It's so minimal compared. I've been throwing everything into this box as I get rid of it. Maybe I even threw a bunch of the wiring already away, but it's so much cleaner. I had a whole pile of stuff. Maybe I threw it in the garbage already, but I've totally wrapped my head around everything that's going on, and I've condensed the whole wiring thing down. They had just a whole bunch of stuff going on, and I revamped the fuel system a little bit too, because I totally understand how the fuel system's working now too. And I don't know if I can make this thing run. Me and Trent are already talking. There might be another one in our future, and we'll hand build the kit this time. Yeah, I'm learning a lot. Learning a lot on this build, and I think we could maybe do an Amazon turbo kit build or something. I don't know, but we'll get this one to run first before we ever try and do that. So there might be another turbo build in our future. This might be so much fun, and might decide that we have to build another one, but we're getting there. This week's going to be another huge week. We got New Year's Day. Trent and I typically don't do anything on New Year's Day. Usually we're up at the cabin because we have snow to start testing and tuning. Well, Minnesota dealt us rain for 2 days straight, so we have 0. So we'll stay in the shop all day Wednesday, work on this. I'll have all my fittings and parts. Plus we have next weekend, so I don't want to jinx ourselves right now, but I'm thinking fire in the hole no later than next Sunday. So a week away, we all get to hear what it sounds like coming out the side of the sled right there. Hopefully, triple music to everybody's ears. Thanks for everybody that hit the super thanks button, and thanks for watching, everybody. Till next week.